أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. All praise is due to Allah, and peace and blessings be upon our final messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam. Today we have the topic, is Islam bad for business? Is Islam bad for business? Today, Dr. Stef Keris will be talking about this topic. Just a little bit about Dr. Stef Keris, if you guys don't know him. He came for a 6-day workshop earlier this year, and it was absolutely fantastic. If you guys missed it, the video will be out shortly, inshallah. He's originally Greek. He accepted the religion of Islam more than 20 years ago, and ever since he's been a travel fanatic. It's very hard to keep up with him. He's in different countries every couple of hours, it seems like. He is a lecturer, historian, a presenter on Huda TV, an author, and he is also well known for many of his books and documentaries. So I'll pass you over to Dr. Stef Keris shortly. Just before we move on, there's going to be a clipboard going around, inshallah. To keep up with Dr. Stef Keris' work, just fill out your name and email, and he will keep you up to date with all his stuff and maybe send you a monthly newsletter. Okay, barakallahu feekum. Hope you enjoy. There will be a question-answer period, so if anyone has any questions, just hold your horses until the end and try to keep it to the topic, please. Thank you.
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. Now, first of all, Jazakumullah khair for being here. Thank you very much for each and every one of you being here again and giving me the chance to be in this wonderful city, Portsmouth. Indeed, I do enjoy it every time I'm here. I must really admit, I just came back from another city, I don't want to mention which one it was. Yesterday I was somewhere else, and the welcome was different. Alhamdulillah, it's like coming back home. So, mashallah, Portsmouth and the ISOC in Portsmouth and the brothers and sisters here, mashallah, really make me feel very welcome. Again, coming back home, mashallah. Now, welcome to this very different event, actually. I think you're used to something about, is Islam the truth, or comparative religions, trying to compare Islam with Christianity and this type of things. But the idea to this topic came up once when I was here, and we were thinking, what about business and Islam? What is actually the real problem? What do people really have a problem with? And by the way, just to go back again, no, I would like to just remind you again, I don't have the kind of lecture attitude. I speak for an hour, 1.5, you fall asleep, and then you wake up the last half hour and ask me questions. Please, no. I want you to interrupt me. I want you to ask me questions while I'm talking. Okay? Do not wait for the Q&A session at the end. There will be no Q&A session at the end. I would like to have a communication with you. I would like to actually have a dialogue. Okay? So please, sisters, please, brothers, everybody who's here, please ask me while I'm busy. Okay? Do not worry about interrupting me. Do not worry about, no problem at all. Okay? I'm used to that and I like it actually. Good. First of all, the topic. So again, this topic, it just came up once when we're thinking, okay, what exactly is the problem here? How do we connect Islam with business? There's no problem because Islam is a deen. And a business transaction, or how to work with business, how to connect Islam and business, is something we find in the Quran. Just now, several ayahs were read out by Abu Yasser with regards to that, business. So there is no problem with that. But when we're saying that we're living in a time that we can all admit, I think, Islam has become a little bit the man, the boogeyman. The Muslims have become the boogeyman. So now, how do you connect the one with the other? And what about us being in the West? And what about Islam and business in general? First thing I would like to ask, do we have, this is the Islam Awareness Week, So I'm hoping to have 50-50. Do we have Muslims and non-Muslims alike here? Non-Muslims? Anybody? My friend, Portuguese friend, mashallah, is here today. Welcome. Okay. 2-3 people. That's good. Better than nothing. Okay. You're all welcome. That's great. Now, let's start with the topic. I would like you to name the biggest industries that you know in the world. One is there already. So please, any industry you know. Cosmetics? Military. Arms, okay. Oil, okay. Telecom, okay. Tobacco. Toys, okay. Tourism, okay. Good, several of them. Many of them that will be mentioned today, inshallah. Many of them that indeed are the biggest industry in the world. This one is number one, the food industry. I will start with number one simply because it is massive. Okay, it's absolutely massive. Any idea about how much the revenue is in the world, worldwide, the food industry? Any idea how many millions, billions, trillions? Any idea? How much? 8 trillion. Worldwide, yeah? Dollars, pounds? Okay. Anything else? Indeed, trillions. Trillions of dollars a year. Trillions. How do you connect Islam with the food industry? Okay. Halal. Have you ever heard of the World Halal Conference in Kuala Lumpur? The biggest one in the world? Have you heard that Kuala Lumpur or Malaysia has become the hub for halal food, halal tourism, halal everything? Financing, okay? Kuala Lumpur, okay, the capital of Malaysia, has become the capital for the Muslims in many ways. Now, it has become big business, guys. Big business. The halal perspective, halal food industry in Japan. How many Muslims are there in Japan? Any idea? An insignificant amount. An insignificant amount. We're talking about the halal food industry in Japan. Okay? Now, in Malaysia, obviously, Muslim majority country, obviously there we can understand it. But Japan, no. Another thing, where do you think most of our halal food comes from? Who is the biggest producer of halal food?
Brazil.
Wow, mashallah, we have somebody who's an expert here. Indeed. How did you know that? Excellent. Brazil is a very Muslim country, isn't it?
No.
Not at all. Next one. Which other one do you think produces after Brazil?
Germany.
Sorry? Germany. Thailand. Very Muslim country again, isn't it? The crazy thing about this one is all, you know, we're talking about Islam, we're talking about halal, and we're talking about the Muslims, and we will see that the Muslims have become mainly consumers. You know, I remember that when we started this whole idea about this topic, it was like, do people have a problem with Islam because of what? Why is there nowadays such an Islamophobia going on? And I mean, we're not going to discuss if there is. Of course there is. Why is there such Islamophobia going on nowadays, although people make money on us? Food industry is just one of the industries. $1 trillion worth industry. Massive. Countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Brazil, South Africa, Australia, all these countries make money on the Muslims. Okay, and many of them not even Muslim countries. So, is Islam good for business? That was the topic, that was the main title, wasn't it? We didn't change it, right? Is Islam good for business, right?
Bad.
Oh, bad for business, yes. Is Islam bad for business? I will not answer the question. I think you can answer the question at the end of our talk, inshallah. Okay? So, food industry. Malaysia exported $9.8 billion worth of halal products in 2013 alone. And it was much, much more in 2014. I don't have the exact numbers. The Americans, the US manufacturers such as Kellogg's and Hershey, plan to build halal-compliant plants in Malaysia. Indonesia, what do you know about Indonesia? Indonesia, the biggest Muslim country in the world. Indonesia, with the world's largest Muslim population, plans to establish a center for the halal industry in 2015. The halal industry. We're talking about the halal food at this moment. We're still at food. Imagine, massive industry. The Brazil Food Company, the one the brother mentioned before, which is among the world's largest food companies, plans to open its first manufacturing site in the Middle East in the UAE's capital, Abu Dhabi. Now, look at this here. We're talking about the halal industry is not just the meat itself, but it also has to do with certifying halal. So there's another industry within the industry. Okay? So we have halal experts, like in Austria, I met one personally, who has become actually a Muslim who came over from his home country, from Tunisia, to study in Vienna. He did his studies in Arabic language, finished it, and now has become a halal expert. Because there's such a big gap, such a big, demand on the market, anybody can become a halal expert nowadays. Now, introducing certified halal meats. Subway, there's one downstairs. Subway has introduced halal meat, especially in Muslim areas or in areas where there are a lot of Muslims. Okay? In Canada, in the US, in Australia, in South Africa, especially the Anglo-Saxon countries. Look at the halal food market. 1.8 billion Muslims in the world. 140% growth in the number of Muslims in Europe in a decade. 30 million Muslims make their homes in the Russian Federation. Russia, the biggest urban Western country in the world, is actually Russia. Moscow has the biggest Muslim population as an urban center anywhere in the world. Non-Muslim country. Okay? Moscow. 16% of the world food trade are part of the halal food market. 16%, and this is increasing. 1 billion Muslims live in Asia alone. Obviously, if you look at Indonesia, Malaysia, these countries, you will of course understand why the majority is living there. Now, massive market, a massive market. Now, is Islam bad for business? Now, we have a restaurant guide for Muslim visitors in Korea. How many Muslims do you know in Korea? I have no idea how many there are. 100, 200, 2,000, I don't know. Insignificant. An insignificant amount of Muslims. But there is a halal guide, there is a restaurant guide for Muslim visitors. Now, the supermarkets nowadays, look, we're living in the UK. I want you to pay attention to the different supermarkets that we have here in this country. Now, they say they have Tesco, Asda, Sainsbury's, the Cooperative, Waitrose, Morrison's, M&S, and Lidl. All of them offer, some of them don't offer halal meat. At least some of them do not even label it. Now, if you look at Asda, I don't know if most of you go shopping to Asda or Tesco's, but Tesco, for example, is the one that actually clearly has halal as well as kosher meat. They have discovered the market. Tesco. Now, Asda does have in certain areas. According to this one here, there is no labeling, but in certain areas I have seen labeling in Asda supermarkets. Okay? And so on and so on. The market has been discovered already. We're living in the UK with a population of 2.8 million Muslims. Fast food outlets. Now, there is no doubt about it, here in Portsmouth as well and anywhere else, there is no doubt about it that wherever you go, you will be able to eat halal. No doubt about it. Now, look at Domino's Pizza, Pizza Hut, KFC, Nando's, Subway, McDonald's, Burger King, Wimpy, all of them non-Muslim owned, and all of them offer halal food. Okay? Nowadays, the last three, McDonald's, Burger King, Wimpy as well. This is an older one. Okay? Now, the world's largest guide to halal restaurants and products, of course, again, business, so there is a website there that makes money, zabiha.com. So again, Islam is bad for business, right? Now, next industry, travel and tourism. You mentioned this before. The sister said tourism. Indeed. What do you know about halal tourism? What is Islamic tourism? Hajj. Is this the only way? Is this tourism? It is for Saudi Arabia. Massive. But if you think of tourism, I don't see Hajj in between. What about going with your wife, having a honeymoon? You just got married and you want to have a honeymoon. Are you going to Mecca for honeymoon? I don't think so. So wouldn't you like to go to a beach, go to Turkey, to Tunisia, to Algeria, to Morocco? Wouldn't this be an idea? It's there already. You can do that. Okay? Maybe with your family. You want to go out with your children, go somewhere, a beach or somewhere. Now, beaches nowadays in Turkey, you have segregated beaches facilities. They have in Turkey nowadays Islamic hotels, as they call them. Okay? Several of them. Okay? And the number is increasing. So again, Islam is bad for business, right? Look what is involved in a tourism business. Look who is involved. We're having people who deal in accommodation and catering, so hotels, food industry. We're talking about transportation, buses, anything else that has to do with transportation. Of course, travel agents that make their money, travel and tourism, tour operators, everything that is involved in the tourism industry. Massive industry again. And Islam plays a big role in that. Now, even nowadays, there is halal tourism conferences all over the world. Okay? Recently there was one in Durban in South Africa, one in Andalusia in Spain, some others also in Malaysia again, and in other parts of the world. Unbelievable, isn't it? And this is a massive industry. Halal tourism. Holidays in accordance with Islamic beliefs and practices. Travel with confidence. Okay? Logo. Okay, clear. China halal tours, guys. Have you ever heard of that? You can go to China on a halal tour. What does it mean, halal tour? Some of you are laughing. What does it mean, halal tour? Is it strange, the concept? What would you expect if you heard, I can take you to a halal tour? What do you expect?
Alcohol-free.
Alcohol-free, one thing. Segregated tours, good. Segregated beaches, right? Okay.
No eating dogs.
No eating dog. Okay, when you go to Thailand, it's very important. So, mashallah, indeed, it is a very big market. Okay? Look at this one here. New Zealand. New Zealand, a culinary haven for Muslims. The tourism board of New Zealand is advertising for Muslims to come and visit their country. The same Australia. I've seen photos with a woman with a hijab, okay, having dinner in Sydney at the opera. Now, the top holiday destinations for Muslims. Which ones do you think they are? Number one, the Islamic countries, Malaysia, and then UAE, Dubai, of course, Turkey, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, and Jordan. Saudi Arabia, of course, they mean Hajj. With regards to non-Muslim countries, number one is Singapore. Number two, South Africa, Thailand, the UK, Bosnia-Herzegovina, and India. Number seven, Hong Kong. So the top seven. Now, look at these pictures. These are Muslim women enjoying themselves, having fun, are on a holiday. There's nothing wrong with that, is there? So, tourism industry, massive, business, on the increase. Somebody mentioned military before. Yes, one of the biggest industries in the world, the arms industry, right? War is business, my friend. War is business. We are aware of the wars in the Middle East, right? The Middle East has never stopped since 1947 producing dead people. There's never stopped having no wars. War is big industry. So the Muslims not only create jobs, but they also buy weapons, lots of them. Now, if you look at the value of the UK arms exports, for example, the biggest countries I think you can see straight away, the ones that buy most of the arms, most of weapons, are of course Muslim countries in the Middle East, right? We have Iran, we have Afghanistan, we have Israel, of course, we have Tunisia, Libya, Egypt, Sudan. Most of them are Muslims, Muslim countries. And the ones who sell them, most of them are, look at them, the countries by arms sales in 2013. Look at them here. Number one is the US. Next, UK, France, Germany, Italy, the European Union. Any Muslim country in between? Not one. The ones who buy them, any Muslim country in between? Nearly all of them. Yes. Amazing, isn't it? So now we're thinking, is Islam bad for business? The arms industry is worth more than $10 trillion per year. Trillions, not billions. How many zeros is that? Trillions. Can you imagine that? Of course, as we said, the biggest sellers are the US, France, Russia, the UK, China, Germany, and so on. The biggest buyers, 21% Saudi Arabia, 13% India, 6% UAE, and so on and so on. Egypt, Pakistan, and so on. Now, what's this? Massive industry. Sex industry. Massive industry, sex industry. What are we talking about? Look at that. Has anybody ever been to Amsterdam? What were you doing in Amsterdam? It was a trick question, man. You know, have you ever been there? That's the red light district in Amsterdam. Okay? So now, Amsterdam lives on the two biggest and worst, actually, most sinful things in the world, selling sex and drugs. And not only Amsterdam, the whole country of the Netherlands, which has become an example for this country here, following their education system, following the way their lifestyle is, you know. So if we follow the Dutch, we become progressive Europeans, according to the British. You know, so they go and get lessons from the Dutch, how to educate our children in Britain. I saw a program last year, I remember. I couldn't believe my eyes. They went to Holland, to Dutch schools, to get sex education in order to import it into Britain, you know, because we don't know how to do that here. So we need the Dutch to come and teach us. You know? Yes, yes, yes. Very important, because the Dutch know everything about that. So now, that's the red light district. This is when it's full, especially in summer. And this year, for the ones who haven't been there, these are windows, one next to the other. Okay? And there are ladies standing in the windows, half naked. Okay? And you can basically, you know, you can imagine what's happening then. So, now, this is how beautiful it looks without people. Okay? When you look at it, you think like, oh, that looks quite nice, you know, the red light, everything fits nicely. Now, again, I don't know if you can pay attention to that. These are the windows. This is where a lady is standing here, and here, and here, and so on and so on. A whole street, 2 streets, 3 streets actually, full of girls. Industry. You know that in Holland nowadays, you can visit the Amsterdam and you can go and visit the Prostitution Information Center. So you can go and find out how much a prostitute earns. Maybe it's a career opportunity, you know. And also, the Dutch are very advanced, as we said before already. They have created a statue to honor their prostitute workers in the city. So this statue here is the statue, Belle it's called, okay, the statue of one of the prostitutes, of course, to honor them and their work. And the one next to it, of course, is the Prostitution Information Center. So, you know, they combine tourism with business, right? Tourism business and, you know, the sex trade. Excellent. These are countries in the world where prostitution is actually illegal or legal. The blue ones is where it's legal, and the red is where it's illegal officially. So in the UK, it's a legal trade, but there are restrictions, right? Now, and we're not going to talk about Holland, obviously, there's more than legal. In countries like in the Middle East, for example, as we can see, in countries, where are we here? You know, Saudi Arabia, you know, the Emirates, Oman, Qatar, Kuwait, all these countries here, North Africa, except Tunisia. Okay, in these countries, there is strictly illegal. That does not mean it doesn't happen. And it does not mean that they don't bring in money. They do. But it's simply what the official version is. It's illegal. In Thailand, interestingly enough, I would like to mention this because I'm sure that many people are aware of it. Thailand's economy, 14% of Thailand's economy depends on the sex industry. Although it's illegal. Thailand is one of the countries where it's illegal. Another industry, the pharma industry. Okay, somebody mentioned it before. Drugs, the drug industry. Hundreds of billions per year worldwide. Pharmaceutical companies make billions, if not even trillions. But the amounts are crazy. Amounts are crazy. Okay? And we're talking from aspirins to hard drugs. The problem is massive. Now, when the Muslims come in there, we as Muslims, do we use drugs? What kind of drugs do we use? Is there a problem using aspirin? Is there a problem using, you know, something against your headache? Of course not. But how far does it go? And is it good for the pharma industry? Can they make money on the Muslims here? That's something to think about. The halal industry, the food industry, of course, there's a lot of money to be made. Is there money to be made on the Muslims with regards to the drug industry? Now, this gives you a little bit of an idea of the use of drugs in certain countries. I'm not going too deep into this, just to give you a little bit of an idea. Okay? Now, if you look at Russia, 12.2%, 15.3% in Central Asia, ongoing. Financial services. Financial services. Anybody who has not an account at HSBC or Lloyds Islamic Bank? Nearly nobody in the UK is a Muslim, doesn't have an account. We all have an account at Lloyds or HSBC or whatever, Barclays, and they all have an Islamic section, don't they? Islamic section in Lloyds. It's as if I deal with shaitan, you know, I tell him, listen, let's make a deal. I give you this, you give me that. I give you half my soul. Subhanallah. Lloyds deals with the Muslims, but what can you do as a Muslim? What can you do? It's better to go, it's the lesser evil, isn't it? And still, again, like in the food industry, there you see again, there's money to be made on the Muslims, isn't it? So where there's money to be made, there we are again. So is Islam bad for business? Okay? Now look at that here. The Dubai Islamic Bank, for example, is one of the biggest banks in the world. Okay? If you look at the assets that, for example, Saudi Arabia has, Malaysia, Iran, all Muslim countries, UAE and so on, massive. These are the top 5 Malaysian Islamic bank institutions in 2009. Not important, most of you don't know them most probably if you're not from Malaysia, but they make a massive amount of money. This is all Islamic finance. Okay? Now, we're not going too deep into Islamic finance. It's a very complicated subchapter, and I would not know too much about it. But it makes money, and this is important. So for that reason, you can find Islamic finance in Europe, in Luxembourg, in Strasbourg, in France, in the center, in the heart of Europe. Okay? Luxembourg is making at this moment a crazy amount on Islamic finance. India and China, for example, both non-Muslim countries, but with massive amounts of Muslims, they make steps towards Islamic finance as there are more than 200 million Muslims in the region. Islamic banking will account for the majority of, with a stake of 78%, followed by sukuk. This is similar to bonds, okay? Let's call it just bonds. which will account for 16% of the industry worldwide. Worldwide. Now, Islamic financial institutions in the Western countries, number one, UK. In Britain, you will find Islamic financial institutions. Many of them. We know the Islamic Bank of Britain even. We know many others that exist. And then the US, France, South Africa, and so on. Now, David Cameron, what did he say? He says, I want London to stand alongside Dubai as one of the great capitals of Islamic finance anywhere in the world. That's what David Cameron said. Now, they're competing with Dubai. They're competing with the Emirates. The Muslim clients are very important, right? We're talking about 1.8 billion people in the world. We're talking about an increasing amount of people. Look at the Muslim pound. Look at where we spend our money on. Look at who we are and how much money we spend. In the UK, 2.8 million Muslims nearly. Okay? Now, 10,000 Muslim millionaires are in this country. Were you aware of this? There are 10,000 Muslim millionaires in this country. 13,400 Muslim-owned businesses in London alone, which create more than 70,000 jobs. $661 billion with regards to the global halal food industry. 1.2 trillion with regards to the halal lifestyle industry, which includes tourism. These are massive amounts. We're talking about the UK alone. We're talking about the pound in the UK. We're talking about the British market. Massive. Massive. Question again, is Islam bad for business? And seeing that we are at an academic institution, we are here to learn and to understand what's happening around us. Look at that. Nowadays you can go and do diplomas and certificates and God knows what with regards to halal industry, the halal industry, with regards to Islamic finance and Islamic banking and everything. This is also developing and it costs a lot of money if you want to do it. Now, you answer the question, is Islam bad for business? Now, I told you I'm not going to answer the question. I'm just giving you some ideas about what Islam and the Muslims, what they do all over the world, and what the influence of Islam and the Muslims is to the industries that are the major ones. We're talking about the arms industry, we're talking about food industry, we're talking about so many industries that play a role in this world around us. I would like to mention one important thing. As students here, you all know the loan issue, the student loan issue, right? That's something we discussed last time, I remember, with some of the students here at the university. Student loan. Anybody who doesn't have a student loan, you know, I think it's very difficult to be able to pay £9,000 fees alone nowadays, isn't it? It's £9,000 to £10,000. So without having a loan, it's nearly impossible to pay it. Now, no problem. That's where the government comes in and says, no problem, we give you a loan. Right? So, no problem. You say, yeah, but isn't there a connection between paying your loan back and paying interest? And paying interest, you know, it's haram in Islam. It's something we don't do. Not only in Islam, but we don't do that in Islam, right? It should actually also be, it should not be all right for the Christians either, but the Christians have gone over it already for a long time before. So now, interest. Yes, there is interest, but don't worry. You just pay the money back once you have earned, once you go into your job and you earn 21,000, and after 21,000, that's when you pay a very small amount back. Are you aware what you're paying back there? Are you aware of this, of the fact that once you start, the very first day already, you take your loan, while you are studying, they put interest on your loan. You, while you're studying, after 5 years, 4 or 5 years, you owe the government more money than what you owed them at the beginning of your studies. Although you haven't even worked, you haven't earned a penny, and you haven't worked 1 hour in your life. You haven't worked 1 hour in your life, you haven't earned a penny in your life in these 5 years that you have studied. And you owe the government already, plus interest, plus this, plus that. So now, and then you come, you start. You work, you say, but I haven't earned 21,000 yet. No problem, we wait for you. We can get your money anytime. This is a dilemma for a Muslim in this country. Getting a loan, either you don't go to study, you don't go to university, so you don't get a loan, or you go to university and you get a loan and the rest of your life you pay it back. The rest of your life you pay it back. You even have to tell them when you go, where you go, holidays, whatever. SubhanAllah, they got you. They got you right. So now, that's why I'm asking myself, is Islam bad for business? You know, the question is, have you ever thought of this? Do you really think that Islamophobia is there because they don't like you praying? Do you really think they have a problem with us Muslims reciting Quran the whole day? Do you really think they have a problem with you locking yourself up in your room and praying 10,000 times a day? No, that's not the problem. That's not the problem. As long as it doesn't affect their pockets, no problem. The Anglo-Saxon world says the following: just leave me and my queen in peace. I want to go to the pub, you leave me in peace. You do what you want to. So, that's where the problem lies with Islam here now, and with the Muslims. It's not necessarily you being a Muslim praying the whole day. It is as long as it does not affect the system. And as long as they can still earn on you. As long as they earn on us, halal banking, halal meat, no problem. No problem. But from the moment that it affects the system and they cannot earn on you, that becomes a problem. Plus, the typical things, spending money on something does not affect, your daily life. You go, you buy meat, you spend money, no problem. Now, even if you pray the whole day, you're in your room, it doesn't affect anybody. But from the moment it affects the system, that's where the problem lies. Now, seeing that nobody has interrupted me, I will have to give you a little bit of time to ask me now, the traditional way, Q&A session. Faddal. Any questions? No questions? Nothing with regards to the student's loan? Yes, bro.
So what do you recommend to do?
In what way?
Well, you said we are so dependent.
Are you talking about the student loan or are you talking about general?
Generally. So what's recommended to do? We are dependent as well. So as long when we start to
I want you to think. I want you just to think. To sit down and think. What is the problem around us? Why is there Islamophobia? Is there Islamophobia because of you being Ahmed Muhammad? Or is there Islamophobia because of you praying 5 times a day? Is there Islamophobia because you spend your money on halal meat? Why is there Islamophobia?
no, because we lagged behind. We lost some wars. We lost ourselves. We didn't invest in education. We didn't build our countries. This should be the problem.
Okay, good, all right. So that means the problem is where exactly? The problem lies in the Muslims, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good, very good, all right. Fair enough. So whatever is happening in the West, it does not affect the Muslim countries directly or indirectly, does it?
Well, sometimes it's directly, sometimes it's not.
Because you should not forget one thing, because we always bring it back to the Muslim world and Muslim countries. We have at this moment in this country more than 120,000 British Muslims. British Muslims. Okay? Our countries, our continent is Europe. So I have nothing to do with what happened in Tunisia, Algeria, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar. I have nothing to do with you guys down there. So now, I'm still affected here. As a European Muslim, I'm affected to what's happening with everything around me. So, what am I going to do? What are we going to do?
No, of course, the war is a small village. I'm from Iraq. Well, Shia and Sunnis are fighting to each other. Okay? This causes a bad impression on you.
Okay.
But it will affect you also.
Okay.
And it will affect all Muslim countries. And you will be labeled in another way, in another category.
Okay. All right. So what do you think about Islamophobia? What's happening then? Is there Islamophobia? Is there no Islamophobia?
Well, I don't know because I didn't face actually. I'm not a teacher over here, so I'm not that social guy to go around. So
You don't feel any Islamophobia in this country?
One within my colleagues.
Okay. Any other idea? Does anybody feel Islamophobia around them?
There is Islamophobia.
Okay. Okay, so what do you mean with Islamophobia? What's happening? How does it affect you?
I think the brother mentioned the bill, that new legislation.
Oh yes, okay. What about this one? Well, have they agreed to this? Has it been agreed upon, the bill? So, okay, so what about business then? If this bill goes through, what about business? The Muslims are big business here. So what's going to happen? They're going to lose money. So you really think they're going to do that to lose money? Who is in money? Okay, so I don't see who it is, you know. All right. So okay, let's just leave it like this. Okay, let's just leave it like this. What about the student loan issue? I heard that there are certain forces, you know, the student body, the Islamic, the Muslim student body, they're trying to get a student loan, an Islamic, a halal student loan. Okay, trying to introduce this one, and they have come quite far. We've come quite far as I have understood it. Now, if this goes through and you can have an Islamic loan, you know, isn't the problem solved then for the students, Muslim students in this country? So there's no problem then, eh? I said that the forces, the Muslim student body, they are trying to introduce an Islamic, a halal student loan. Okay? They're trying to introduce a halal student loan so that you don't have to pay interest. All right? So if this comes, if they introduce this, then won't this mean that we as Muslim students in this country here, I'm not talking about the ones coming from outside, but the the UK, the British students, would this mean then that the problems are solved for a Muslim student here?
Depends where the money is coming from.
Okay, brother, yes, all the way. Who won't allow it? Okay, why not? Okay. Well, it's a massive amount, right? Massive population. Okay. Okay. So, Islamophobia is why then? There shouldn't be Islamophobia then. If they depend on the Muslims so much, why is there Islamophobia then? I mean, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, right?
Could it be because of the threat that a unified Ummah could give them? The threat of a unified...
There are more people, the more money. Have you ever thought if there is a problem with you praying? In this country, every university has a prayer hall. Every university has specific facilities for the Muslims. Okay? In general, in these countries, the Anglo-Saxon world, okay? I'm not talking about the rest of Europe, but I'm talking about certain other countries. But in this country, in the States, in North America, in Australia, in South Africa, everywhere you will find specific prayer rooms, specific, institutions for the Muslims. The universities, where do they make their money from? What is a university? Isn't this in this country a big business? And most of you know that. You all pay. You all pay a lot of money to be here, especially the ones who come from outside. Especially the ones who come from abroad. You pay big bucks. So, if somebody comes from Saudi Arabia, from Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, do you really think that the university is going to say, no, we don't want these people, they're Muslims? They will give you even a whole, building if they want to. If they want to give you a whole building because you come from Saudi Arabia and we have 20 students, 30, 40, 50 students who demand a prayer hall, a whole building, they will get it because they pay big bucks. So in the end, It's not about you being Muslim. It's business. It's business, isn't it? And if you look at our generations here in Europe, if you look at the first generation Muslims who came in the 60s, I'm not talking about before, we're not going into this history, but we're looking into the 50s, 60s, 70s, when many from the Indian subcontinent, Pakistanis, Indians, Bangladeshis, Sri Lankans, they came over here to this country to work in their factories. When they came over here, these people, most of them were illiterate, uneducated people. They didn't come here to practice the deen, and they didn't come here to make da'wah, and they didn't come here to, for anything specific. They came for money. Now they have circa second and third generation people here who are coming, who are here, who speak the language, who have grown up here, who are British citizens, and they want to now study. So, I want you just to think about this. Think about the influence that the Muslims can have in a society. Think about the influence that they can have on an economy. Okay? It's a massive, massive topic. A massive topic. And I want you to think about one important thing. That there is no Islamophobia because the Muslims are whatever, because you can come up with so many things about Islam and the Muslims. The importance of the Muslims in a society, as we just said. If all these Muslims left this country here, 3 million Muslims, if they all left this country would actually go bankrupt. There would be a problem in this country and in many countries. So, that's not the aim. I don't think that's the aim. The question is just, what is the aim? What is happening around us? I just want us to be aware of this, that there's something is happening around us. And I keep saying in the workshops that I have, which are mainly history workshops, before Second World War, before World War II, everybody was talking about Europe being a Christian continent, having a Christian civilization, Christian culture. After the Holocaust, everybody started talking about a Judeo-Christian culture. Now my question is, what has to happen to the Muslims living in Europe in order for them to understand that it's a Muslim Judeo-Christian culture? Okay, think about it. And it's not about paranoia here. I'm not trying to spread paranoia, but I'm just trying to make you aware of what's happening around us. And 1992 to 1995, a horrible war happened just here in this continent, in front of our eyes, Bosnia. I wonder if you know what happened in Bosnia at that time. I wonder if any one of you here sitting, actually, how old are you now? Most of you were probably that time, 10 years, maybe just born, some of you. It's a question if you are aware of the situation in 1992 to 1995. There was a horrible situation. There was a Holocaust happening in Bosnia against the Muslims. Are you guys aware of that? And now, we're making money on the Muslims as much as we can. But, you know what, we don't like them. We're making money on them, it's okay, but we don't like them, it's okay. Everything is okay, that's better, it's okay. We accept everything. Now the point here as a Muslim is, we have to realize that something is happening around us. And we have to fight this in a way that we can fight it. What do I want to say by that? Listen carefully. I'm not talking about going on the street, I'm not talking about protests, and I'm not talking about killings, and I'm not talking about this nonsense. I'm talking about you becoming steadfast in your deen. I'm talking about you looking into Islam at what it really means. Looking into the real sources of Islam. Okay? I want you to understand Islam as it really is. Okay? Understand it through Quran and Sunnah, and go back and understand it also with regards to its history. We need to understand through our history what has happened in the past and why it has come to the point that it is nowadays. Okay? The brother mentioned something very interesting. The Muslims in the Muslim countries have created a problem and have issues that they themselves created. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. But if you don't understand your history, you will never be able to shape your future. Don't forget the Crusades. They happened in the 11th century onwards. This is like 10 centuries ago. And still there's an influence from that time in people's mentality and mindset until nowadays. George Bush was talking about a crusade. That was now. People are talking about a crusade now in the 21st century. So what happened in history has a very important effect on what's happening nowadays and what will happen in the future. Okay, so we have to work on it actually in a way of, interfaith dialogue and all this stuff is good, but we need to concentrate on our deen. We need to understand what Islam really means. And I think that's when people will actually start to respect you also more as a Muslim. If you know your deen better, people respect you more. There was an incident, a very interesting one, in America. I read on Facebook. Sister sent me once what happened to her when she was on the bus. There was an old lady, she came in, and the seat was free next to the Muslim lady. And the old lady didn't want to sit down. She was a little bit scared. So the Muslim sister told her, listen, it's a free seat, you can sit down. She says, to be honest, I'm scared. She said, what about? She said, I don't know, because what I hear and see about you guys is not good. So the sister said, okay, you know what? Sit down and let's have a chat. So the old lady sat down. They were half an hour on the bus. At the end, they became friends, they exchanged telephone numbers, and they have ever since been meeting each other. The prejudice and this fear is gone from this woman. So this is an example, I think, for where the right input is valued. It's very, very important, very, very important. Do not react fire with fire. You cannot get fire off with fire, right? You should try to show Islam the way it is. Okay? And it's not about beheading people, it's not about killing people. It never was. That's what the media said. That's exactly what we have to counter. Very difficult. But you know what? Think of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That media at that time were the Quraysh. The Quraysh of that time were much, much more powerful and mightier than Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, we have the media now. We're in that position here now. Wasn't it difficult for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Wasn't it difficult for the Sahaba of that time? Wasn't it difficult? How did they open Mecca? No bloodshed at all. Not one person was killed when they opened Mecca. How did they manage to do that? With a lot of perseverance, a lot of sabr, a lot of patience. After many, many years. And we want to reach everything from today to tomorrow. You see some youngsters, in this country or in certain countries going on the street and, we want Sharia in this country. What the hell are you talking about? Do you know what Sharia is? Do you know what this is? That's it. Nobody really knows what it is. Of these people are standing outside there screaming. Okay? Now, we have to be aware of this. We have to be aware that we have problems also within ourselves. We have problems among the Muslims. We have issues. And we have to solve them too. Okay? External, but also internal problems. Okay? We have them both. Now, but is Islam bad for business? Can there be any problem for a Muslim living in this country and dealing with all these issues? I mentioned the sex industry before. Obviously, for the sex industry, Islam is a problem. Right? Okay? So, I don't expect any one of us to go to Amsterdam, and have fun in Amsterdam. So, that's a problem, isn't it? Amsterdam doesn't earn on you. Holland doesn't earn on us. In Holland, the coffee shops in Holland. The coffee shops in the Netherlands are not like here. They have coffee and hot chocolate, but they also have other things in there. Okay? They sell hashish, they sell marijuana, and they sell God knows whatever. Okay? Some things are illegal, but they still sell them. And they're all run by Moroccans, by the way. And as far as I know, most of them are Muslims. So, the dilemma there is, Muslims are having businesses that are illegal. So they make money again, but on something which is illegal. Okay? So now, is Islam good or bad for business? Obviously, in that case, Islam would say no. Islam would say no. We're not supposed to do that. It's illegal, it's haram. So, the sex industry has a problem. There, Islam is a problem. Now, the banking industry. If you look at the banking industry, what about that? Do they have a problem? The problem is interest. The problem is interest. But they're trying to avoid it already. There is a way out of it. And that goes deeper if you try to get busy with Islamic finance. It's a little bit more difficult to understand it. But it is possible to avoid the issue of interest in itself, if you wanted to. If you wanted to. The arms industry. Well, as long as there's trouble in the world, then there is money to be made. And the biggest trouble is in the Middle East. Okay? And we know they're responsible for these ones. Now, university, students, education. Education. If there is no education in the Muslim world, Muslims have to come over here to get education, as they do. So the Muslim governments and the Muslim countries have to actually bring forward their education finally. Finally invest in education rather than in arms. Okay? It's unacceptable that you look at a country like Sudan, which spends more money on militarization than on education. Mauritania, Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, all these countries, poor in education, the population are suffering, but they're spending money on arms. Pakistan, India, unacceptable. They have nuclear weapons in Pakistan, but, people don't have anything to eat. I mean, subhanallah, this is absolutely unacceptable. So, anything else? Any remarks, any comments, any questions?